to more than a century of his family history to highlight the importance of social justice. Small Acts of Courage is a heartfelt exploration into his own life and stories of those who fought for democracy and freedom against all odds. And Ali Velshi is joining me right now. He, of course, an Msnbc anchor, correspondent, and host of Velshi, and such a dear friend. So before we get into your remarkable new book, we're going to talk about Donald Trump's hush money trial going on right now here in New York City. Look, this week, a number of Republican lawmakers, most of them far right, they went to court to stand in solidarity with Donald Trump, and that includes Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert. What, Ali, did you make of this display?
Well, first of all, it was kind of weird. They were like the red tie brigade. All the men had dark suits and red ties. Vivek Ramaswamy was there. It was weird. Like, it had a bit of a cultishness to it. And it's not that Congress is in recess or anything. They actually had work to do all week, and there were many hearings and things that were delayed as a result of this. So it was a very strange show for the former Law and Order Party, or the Party of Lincoln, or whatever the Republican Party likes to think of itself as these days, for them to have done this show of support. They continue to try and make the case that this is all a witch hunt brought on by Joe Biden and his administration, while the business they were missing at Congress, Alex, was actually a discussion about possibly impeaching, or at least censuring the Attorney General. So, you know, on one hand, it's everything's political, and on the other hand, they were busy politicizing things at Congress while not doing their jobs. It was surreal. It was hard to understand what was going on at court this week.
And listen, that hearing got underway so late. It was 8 o'clock at night, but by the time they all got back. And everyone's going to be a little cranky and tired. I'm curious what you thought about it. Jasmine Crockett was on your show. You interviewed her. I'm also going to add this as a caveat. I wonder, MTG, she was not there in New York. I wonder if she was not invited and she was mad and she came to that meeting with a hornet's nest, right?
She was mad, and she picked a fight. And look, you got to know, amongst your coworkers, you always know who's the one that's good to pick a fight with and who's not. And I think Marjorie Taylor Greene probably should have figured out that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jasmine Crockett are not ideal people to pick these fights with. And so they gave it back to her. And Jasmine Crockett said something, and she was hoping that we would, give it in the complete context, because she did things that sort of called Marjorie Taylor Greene names, but she phrased it in terms of asking James Comer, the chair, to say, so this is allowed. If I were to say this, and then she said a bunch of stuff, would that be allowed? She's a lawyer, and she was trying to make the point, like, what are the actual rules of how this committee work gets conducted?
She was doing it in parliamentary, just asking the hypothetical. Anyway, I mean, it was such a insert words here, but anyway, let's go on to...
It was something else.
Yeah, something else. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, as you know, visited Kyiv on Tuesday to reassure Zelensky he's still got American support as the country is struggling to defend itself against Russia. You, Ali, spent a chunk of time in Ukraine. Do you see an end in sight to this conflict?
Well, there are two very distinct ways this ends. One is that Vladimir Putin is hoping that Donald Trump gets elected, because Donald Trump has made it so clear, especially with his proxies now in Congress, that he will not continue to support this war, that it is entirely conceivable, not a foregone conclusion, that Russia wins this war if Donald Trump becomes president. So that, for the moment, this is a waiting game for Vladimir Putin. On the Ukrainian side, they're getting tired, and this delay in getting this money and the stuff that comes with it from the United States has really hurt morale. Now, that's why Blinken was there, to say, we got your back. We got $60 billion worth of stuff. We're trying to get it to the front lines as fast as possible. Now, again, if that continues, if the support from the United States continues and continues after this next election, it is entirely likely that Ukraine will prevail in this war. I think we're not going to see a solution before the election, and I think this election is going to have more to do with the outcome of that war than possibly any other election in American history would have on anybody else's internal problems.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book, which chronicles your family's century-long journey from India to South Africa during apartheid, then up to Kenya, then over to Canada, and then finally your journey to America. Tell me, Ali, how your parents being born into inequality and your family history of activism in public service, how does that inform your worldview and your approach to journalism?
Well, it's uniquely important in this moment, Alex, because we're in this world where people feel overwhelmed by all the things that are going on, whether it's in other places in the world, wars that are going on, autocracy, climate, political polarization. And the whole point of my book is that small things matter. People should do what is in front of them. And how many times have you and I covered stories about people who fight back on book bans or things like that, and they succeed? You know, they get elected to local council, or these legislators who we meet. The point in my book is that don't worry about boiling the ocean. There's work for everybody that can be done. And I use my family's history as an example. But frankly, I've had a lot of people read the book who've told me this reminds me of my family history and my family that came from Europe or Ireland or wherever they came from. Immigration is a big part of it. But this idea that you fight for the justices and the injustices that are right in front of you, and while you may not feel the reward or think it's moving fast enough, your doing so influences someone else, Alex. It influences your kids or your grandkids or the world around you to make the world a better place. The whole it's a sort of a tome to the fact that things can be better, and it's in our hands to make them better.
Yeah, which, by the way, you do even just from the studio for all of us who work here. I just want to say that. Look, everybody, this is the book.
No, you are kind.
It's like the perfect bedside table book. It's great to read, just a chapter. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. And I will say it was a hell of a way to start off, talking about that very dubious date of May 30, 2020. I want folks to pick it up, read it, and then take it up from there. It's just... it's something. Anyway, thank you, Ali. Safe travels as you're out there.
Thank you, my friend. I miss you. I mean, normally we'd be in the same place for this. Once in a while, we're in different places, but I'll see you soon enough in New York.
I can't wait. See you soon. And for all of you, of course, you can watch Ali every weekend on his show, Velshi, Saturday and Sunday morning, starting at 10 Eastern.